Today, we're diving into a fascinating process that's part veterinary science and, honestly, part forensic investigation. It's called a bovine necropsy. We're going to look at the incredibly meticulous steps scientists take to figure out the story behind an animal's death. And that story, well, it has huge implications for the safety of our food.
So how exactly do you solve a mystery when your only witness can't talk? See, a necropsy isn't just an animal autopsy, it's a high-stakes investigation. The clues you find here can protect an entire herd of cattle, they can safeguard our food supply, and they can even stop the spread of dangerous diseases. It's a puzzle for sure, but one with incredibly high stakes.
First things first, before any cutting begins, you have to position the subject. And this might sound like a simple, basic step, but how the animal is placed is absolutely critical. It actually dictates the entire flow of the whole procedure. Now, here's where it gets interesting right away. You don't position every cow the same way. For a full-grown adult cow, it's always placed with its left side down. But for a young calf, you put it on its right side or, more often, just flat on its back. And this isn't just a random choice. There's a very specific anatomical reason for doing it this way.
And that reason? It's all about the stomach. You see, in an adult cow, the rumen, which is this massive first chamber of the stomach, it fills up almost the entire left side of the abdomen. So if you put the cow on its left side, gravity pulls that huge organ down and out of the way. But in a calf, the rumen isn't fully developed yet. Its true stomach, the abomasum, is proportionally much bigger, which makes a different position way more practical for the exam.
Okay, so once the animal is positioned correctly, it's time to enter the body cavities. This is where investigators start to get access to the internal organs, and it all begins with the really careful removal of the limbs.
And this step takes some serious skill. The goal is to separate the limbs by cutting through the muscle attachments. You're not cutting through bone. All the while, you have to be so careful not to accidentally puncture the abdominal or chest cavities. And notice that safety rule. The assistant holds the main body steady, not the limb that's being cut. It's a two-person job, and that little detail is crucial to prevent a slip-up and a serious injury. Safety is just number one here.
You know, the second those front limbs are off, the internal exam has already started. The very first clues are now visible. The superficial lymph nodes. Are they swollen? Are they discolored? These nodes are like the alarm bells for the immune system. Their condition gives the pathologist an immediate sign of whether this animal was fighting off an infection.
All right, now the investigation really deepens as we move to the abdominal organs. Opening up this cavity, it's like opening a treasure chest of information. Everything you need to know about the animal's internal health is right there. But here's the golden rule. Before a single organ is moved, before anything is touched, the first thing you do is you just look. The pathologist takes a moment for a really thorough visual inspection of the entire cavity, because if you start moving things around too early, you could completely destroy crucial evidence about how the organs were positioned or interacting with each other.
So what are they looking for? Well, every single thing on this list is a piece of evidence. Is there extra fluid where there shouldn't be? Do they see these delicate spiderweb-like things called fibrin strands? That's a huge sign of inflammation. Are there any visible parasites? Is an organ the wrong color? Are some of the organs literally stuck together? Each one of these observations helps build the case for what happened. Now we get to one of the most complex parts, getting the intestines out. To make sure none of the digestive content spill out and contaminate the scene, the pathologist first ties off the tube of the esophagus and then ties off the beginning of the small intestine. It's like sealing both ends. Then they carefully cut the mesentery, that's the fan-like tissue that holds all the intestines in place, and then they can lift the entire tract out as one unit. And just to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about here, think about the spleen. In an adult cow, the spleen is tucked way up against the left body wall, but you can't even get to it. You literally cannot reach it until that massive, heavy rumen is lifted and moved out of the way. It really shows you how the unique anatomy of a cow means there's a very specific, ordered way you have to remove the organs.
All right, let's move on to the final and maybe the most delicate part of this whole investigation, the brain. If you suspect a neurological disease, things like rabies or even mad cow disease, the brain holds all the answers. Getting it out completely intact is a highly specialized skill.
For cattle, there's a very specific four-cut technique. First, a cut is made straight across the top of the skull. Then, two more cuts go from the ends of that first one back toward the foramen magnum. That's the big hole where the spinal cord connects. The fourth and final cut goes right down the middle, connecting everything. This basically creates a cap on the skull that can then be carefully pried off.
So now the skull cap is off and the brain is almost free. The head is tilted, and using a pair of scissors, the pathologist snips each cranial nerve one by one, along with the membrane covering the brain. This allows the brain to just gently be cradled out of the skull, perfectly preserved for analysis. I mean, the precision required here is just incredible.
So, after all that, all this intricate, methodical, careful work, why does it matter so much? Well, it's because all of these small physical clues, they connect to a much, much bigger picture, one that affects all of us.
Ultimately, the evidence you gather confirms exactly why an animal died, and that helps scientists track and control devastating diseases, things like bovine tuberculosis or salmonella. That, in turn, protects the health of the entire herd, which prevents bigger outbreaks that could threaten our meat and milk. So really, every single necropsy is one more piece of a giant puzzle, giving us critical data that helps keep our food safe and advances veterinary science for everyone's benefit.
From that very first step of positioning the body to the incredibly delicate forecut brain removal, the bovine necropsy is just this powerful reminder that some of the most important scientific work in the world happens far, far away from the spotlight. It really makes you wonder, what other vital secrets are being uncovered in places we rarely get a chance to see?